Bowl. Maybe you can give a little bit of context about the campaign and how you approach innovation while staying true to the principles of the brand.
Definitely. Well, that's a fully loaded question, Michael. So if I'm long-winded, I'm sorry. So Cetaphil, I'm American, and we're based in Switzerland. But for any American like myself, Cetaphil is an iconic brand. It's in every single person's bathroom around America, and so I had just started at Cetaphil January 3rd, actually. So I was just excited to dive in, and I typically like to take about 2 to 3 months to understand a brand, assess how to move forward. But I come from LVMH, where I spent the last 10 years, and at LVMH, you really learn from the best in terms of how to be a hype machine, right? So it's really I'd love to say it was super, super strategic, but the truth is that it's just my MO, right? I can't help myself when I hear about something that's happening in the news. We have to plug into culture. We have to be present and show up where our consumers are. And so I was my second week on the job in Switzerland when I got the alert that the teams had been announced for the Super Bowl. So I immediately called a brainstorm with my team, thinking, okay, we're gonna do a viral bet. This is what I've always done, but I didn't even stop to think, candidly, that Cetaphil might not do viral bets. Maybe Cetaphil hasn't done a viral bet before, but we're gonna do our first. So I called together my immediate team of 5 team members, none of which were Americans, by the way, and invited our incredible PR team, Lippe Taylor in New York, just to brainstorm really quickly some ideas. We all came to the table with ideas, and the real insight behind the campaign is we wanted to show up where our consumer was. Unlike a lot of brands, we're not anchored in a celebrity. We're not anchored in tens and tens of millions of media dollars. So earned media goes much further than paid media. It's part of an ecosystem. And so by nature of it being a viral bet, it means you have to have an idea, you have to have an insight that's going to go viral. And I feel no disrespect to any viral bets that include celebrities, okay? I love a celebrity viral bet. But if you don't have a celebrity, your idea has to be really, really good, right? You have to make people care about that. So we were brainstorming what's happening today? What's gonna make people care? Because this was 10 days before the Super Bowl, okay? Like, we didn't tell everyone this because people were talking about how, Cetaphil, they must have spent at least $10 million creating this video. The truth is we came up with this idea 10 days before the Super Bowl. We had the brainstorm on Thursday. We shot it on Tuesday. And we released it to the media on Thursday. We were only able to buy television media in one market, which was Dallas. And we happened to be there, so it was really cool to watch like a brand that I was working on have a real Super Bowl commercial in the U.S. That was a real career milestone and highlight. But ultimately, what that did, Michael, I think, getting to the second part of your question, is it took a brand like Cetaphil that is such a legacy brand with this incredible heritage, and it marked a clear shift into a digital era where we are shifting our marketing model to be completely advocacy, culture, and consumer first. Previously, no disrespect at all, because the model that was used before helped propel the brand to a $1 billion brand, okay? But the model that was used to get to 1 billion isn't the model that's going to take to get it to 2. Okay? And so we use this campaign as a moment to shift to advocacy first and to digital momentum first. And so it's only going to continue.
That's great. Thank you. It's interesting you talk about how, for you, the idea of identifying a viral moment was kind of something natural and you'd done previously, but was probably not something that was really native to the Cetaphil, the rest of the Cetaphil team. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you identified the right opportunity Like, how did the idea come to you, and how were you able to develop this into such an impactful campaign?
Yeah, I think that that Alex here would be better suited to answer that question, because while we all brainstormed it together, Alex had a fully baked idea that he brought to this brainstorm, which when someone shows up to a brainstorm with a deck, they mean business, okay? So he had an idea that was, some fabulous person at Lippe Taylor forwarded this invite to Alex Foster, who I had never met before, right? And so we heard from Lippe Taylor that someone on their team had a really great idea, and so that's how we met. And you had this idea.
I did. Well, we did. Lippe. It was a pretty interesting thing. For those who aren't aware of what we're talking about right now, we came up with this campaign called the Game Time Glow, which was a viral bet for Cetaphil throughout the Super Bowl. We turned up to the Super Bowl late, when all our competitors, all other advertisers had already released their spots. And about 11 days before the Super Bowl, I had this sort of idea that came from an insight, and sat down with some of my team and had a look at it, and asked if I could get in front of Tara. And it was all built around this concept that during the football season over the course of the last year, Taylor Swift had a big impact on football. But not just on football fans, but on young girls showing up and being interested in football for the first time. So she took a lot of flack in the media from a lot of American sports fans saying, "Get Taylor off our screens, we want to watch sport." But then if you looked amongst that kind of noise, you sort of saw that a lot of men were saying, "Say what you want about Taylor Swift, but I've never been closer to my daughter than ever before, because I'm spending so much time with her on weekends." And so there was a post from the dad on Instagram that kind of sort of ignited this, and saw that this was part of social discourse at the time. And so we went and sat with our data team and looked at just how deep that went in social commentary. And there was a lot of dads talking about how much they were doing with their daughters. So this was, again, 11 days before the Super Bowl, and we thought, well, no other brand has jumped on this. No other brand has seen this as an opportunity. And where we saw it as an opportunity, we didn't want to just piggyback off it. We saw it as an opportunity for Cetaphil to extend this moment and to build not just a relationship between the dad and the daughter that had been forged through football, but the dad and the daughter that was forged through another routine, being skincare, especially at a time when Cetaphil is an early adopter for young teens. It's one of the first kind of entries into skincare and into that world for a lot of young teens. And it's also the same time that teens stop, communicating with their parents in the right way. So we saw an opportunity to bring two lifestyles together, football and skincare, and to be able to bring this campaign called Game Time Glow to life through telling the story of a dad and daughter coming together over the course of a football season, and how their relationship evolved.
Yeah, and strategically, within my first 2 weeks on the job, the first thing I did as an executive is look at the consumer data. Who's shopping the brand, who's buying the products, and what's our customer acquisition rates like, and what's our lapsed consumer? Who are our lapsed consumers? And candidly, we had an older target previously, and the reality is we weren't acquiring younger consumers. And again, I come from a long career of specializing in reaching the younger demographic while not alienating any of the older demographics, right? While being an older demographic myself now. So it's really critical for us as marketers to pay attention to the who. Right. So during this brainstorm, there were a lot of ideas that were thrown out that were a little bit of what Cetaphil might have done last year, right, or 5 years ago, and that doesn't work anymore. So I knew from looking at the consumer data, I wanted to reach Gen Z, halo into Gen Alpha. And so that was the lens that I was looking through when ideas were being pitched to me. And I think we solved that. Right? Like, the idea was a perfect fit in that regard. I wouldn't have green-lighted a viral bet that wasn't going to reach the consumer. Cetaphil doesn't need brand awareness. everyone knows Cetaphil. And by the way, what a joy and a blessing for an executive, right? Because most of us are building awareness, and we don't have to do that at Cetaphil. But what we do have to do is build brand affinity and brand love. We have to make people care about our brand. And in my experience, we do that by putting out content that is genuinely heartfelt and makes people care. And I feel like this was a real home run in that regard.
I mean, pretty incredible way to kind of start your tenure with Galderma. How are you thinking about how this campaign really started off the process of how you think about the brand going forward?
Great question. So again, I think there's a lot of marketers in the room. So we all love a viral bet, and we love a successful viral bet even more. All it did is just showcase a proof point. Right? So I had a hypothesis, and the success of this campaign proved that, which is a good enough. We might not be able to win in media dollars, but we can win in creativity, and we can reach Gen Z and Gen Alpha through a really smart digital strategy and advocacy strategy. And it's not a game that's going to be won through just media dollars and a kind of expected traditional media content moment. It has to be something that's thumb-stopping, that's engaging, and very shareable. So we took this, and we know that moving forward, this is what we have to do, right? And even more than that, looking at the statistics of who engaged with the campaign and who shared it was a proof point as I began to put together our future strategy that, one, we had to very quickly shift our brand image and our brand messaging and our brand voice, and reassess how we're talking about our DNA, which is well underway and will be debuted in October. That's my plug for the Cetaphil rebrand. Cetaphil 2.0 is coming in October. But I think, it wasn't just an opportunistic moment. It was something that proved a hypothesis about what the right media model is and marketing model. So moving forward, what Alex and I and the Lippe team talk about a lot are what's the next Super Bowl moment, right? I mean, on the flip side, I mean, that's kind of a high bar is set, right? When you very quickly within 2 weeks of your first job make a 76-year-old brand trend on Twitter. Excuse me. Again, I said I'm an older demographic. So it's one of those things where I think we have to constantly think about how to plug into culture and where to show up in places that it makes sense. A lot of our regions around the world were like, okay, so we're gonna go big on sports now. And I was like, no, this doesn't mean that we're gonna go big in sports. It just means we're gonna show up where our consumer is, and we need to be quick. We can't start with an insight and produce a campaign and do it a month later, because then the moment has passed, right? And so you're going to see more viral bets. You're going to see us reach a different demographic in the future, but in a really cool way that is authentic and that is genuine. And I believe it will continue to build momentum and affinity within Gen Z and Gen Alpha.
Right. I mean, so a lot of viral bets don't pay off. Clearly, this one really did.
Yeah.
There's a lot of value that comes from the conversation that happens about the brand in terms of your ability to understand. Obviously, you increase brand affinity, but you also learned more about how consumers are thinking about the brand. I'm assuming that is kind of an input into how you're thinking about the evolution.
Absolutely, 100%. And so, that's why I believe viral bets need to be fairly inexpensive, because it is by nature of being called a viral bet. It's still a bet, right? So no one wants to explain a failed expensive viral bet, but this was a bet that we were so glad paid off. Right, and doing it in 10 days, we did it as fun and scrappily as we possibly could, but we dug into the insights there, and we actually have a second viral, so hopefully viral social campaign that's going live today. So it's we're continuing to leverage this learning and plug it into our marketing calendar as we go.
I think the interesting thing was, we found a really interesting insight that no one had stumbled upon. That it was hiding in plain sight, and I was surprised that no one had kind of picked up on it. But we then sat and worked with the Cetaphil team, with Tara and her team, to really determine how we could leverage that to really authentically connect with the Cedar demographic. And we looked at a number of ways of how we could tell a story that was actually going to resonate properly. And I think a big part of why we had success during this year's Super Bowl is there were a lot of other brands who had success with comedy, with gimmicks, with celebs. But we went for an authentic, heartfelt, true story that resonated deeply with the audience, and not just with the teen girls or the dads who were kind of, featured as characters in our story, but also with anyone who's related to having a daughter, having a husband, having a brother, a sister. All family could relate to that story of a dad and daughter bonding and sharing, spending time.
But I do think it really is that word that you're hearing us both use, which is authenticity. We know that Gen Z and Gen Alpha require authenticity to even consider purchase, right? And so moving forward, you're probably not going to see any assets or campaigns created by our brand that feel a little expected or genericized.
That's great. So one risk with a viral bet is that it doesn't resonate. Obviously, that didn't happen here. But there's always a risk that something can go viral in the wrong way and experience some backlash. In this case, there was some. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that and how you navigated that challenge.
Yeah, I mean, again, due to how quickly we pulled this campaign together, we were just enjoying the success of the campaign and doing our best with community management. It was the middle of New York Fashion Week, and part of the success of this campaign was that it was the experience of tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of dads and daughters, maybe millions, right?
It worked because it was real.
It worked because it was real. It wasn't anyone's particular story, but and Alex had done a wonderful job of casting a real father-daughter in New York, so that you felt that in the story. It was very genuine.
They actually helped write the story. As we were filming real moments with them. We had them improvise certain scenes and bring it to life, naturally.
Yeah.
And it really worked.
Yeah. What is so we behind the scenes we were moving very quickly, but we knew our process and we knew that it was very genuine, but the risk there of tapping into a genuine cultural insight is that it is many people's story. And there was an influencer who had been creating content with her father. She was living in the San Francisco Bay Area, and it is she and her dad posted content saying, "Hey, this campaign, the trending voice, is this about us?" And so that was what they used, and this influencer. She really genuinely believed that we had taken her story, and that was really, really difficult to swallow because she had a lot of conviction about it, and we knew that we hadn't. But the way that we handled that was by us reaching out to her via our brand handle, and because I wanted to speak with her and her father personally, and she wanted to be heard. And he wanted to be heard and seen. I didn't want this influencer and her father to believe that this big skincare company had genuinely stolen their story. That would feel horrible, honestly. And so I wanted to connect with them and let them know that we were real people and that we had behind the brand, and we were inspired by so many stories like theirs, but yet, in fact, we hadn't seen their content. But now that we had seen it, we loved it. And it was genuinely, it was just what we were looking for the influencer section of our campaign. And so we had a series of really wonderful conversations. I talked with her and her dad and her mom. And I had been living in San Francisco, and we got to bond over skincare and beauty. And they were a really wonderful family. And Corey Martin, who's here today, was working with me to create the influencer portion of the campaign, where we were working with influencers, real dads, and dermatologists dads to share their story and their content. And so we extended an invitation to them to be a part of our campaign, and she's now one of the influencers that represents our brand. She's a Cetaphil ambassador because we genuinely just loved her content that much. And so we have a great relationship with that influencer and her family now, and we text about football now. So I think that's a different topic, but it is a potential, going viral. It has potential pitfalls, and that is sometimes the price that you pay of real viral success. But I can't speak to this enough as a marketer, as an executive. It is so critical that if that ever happens to your brand, that you don't leave it to your agency to handle, that you don't hope that it goes away, right? Like, pick up the phone and let influencers know that you're real, that you see them, that you care about them, you hear them, and that you want to build a relationship with them. Because at the end of the day, our brands are not built on paid media; they're built on community.
Yeah, the speed of response there is really critical.
100%, absolutely.
And we did, respond very quickly and have a conversation very quickly. And I think it was handled excellently by the Cedarville Galderma team in general. But it kind of opened this question, in general around, creator content versus, agency content and brand content, and where the two can meet or get blurred at different times, which was pretty interesting. But again, some of the pitfalls of going viral. And I think with an intention to go viral, we had an intention to make it a viral bet. We didn't spend as much media as some of our competitors who spent millions and millions of dollars. There's so much you can plan and there's so much you can't plan. And we had planned it in a lot of very positive ways. We did some really interesting things to try and gain that virality. In the storytelling itself, for example, we inserted a series of Swiftie Easter eggs, 50 in fact, 50 different Easter eggs in the actual film itself, where, if you were a big enough Swiftie, you'd be able to spot these things. And we then started to, seed interesting conversations with Swifties on Reddit to sort of see how many of these they could find. And everything from, Taylor's number 13 on some jerseys that they were wearing to Travis's number, to all kinds of, and to Taylor's 89 and her friendship bracelets and butterflies and all kinds of really interesting things. And that actually caused a huge response online in social commentary and people trying to guess, where the Swiftie moments were, and
right,
that had a big positive impact for us as well.
Decoding is a big part of the Taylor Swift popularity and fandom.
Yeah,
I think I only found 3 or 4 of them. Yeah, that's wonderful. My team at TransUnion has done a lot of work and research into the value of building a brand long term. Can you talk a little bit, either of you, around how you think this has really changed the way consumers perceive of the brand and how that's going to pay off for you long term?
Definitely. I think I'd love to sit here and say that our viral Super Bowl campaign really was such a revolutionary moment that it forever shifted the way consumers see our brand. The truth is it takes a lot more than one viral video to do that. It requires giving a facelift to every single consumer touch point and beating that drum very, very loudly about who you are. Reassessing your brand voice, your brand codes, the spirit, look and feel of your brand, and your marketing model all at once. So while I think it was a really good proof point that my hunch was right, that we needed to go after Gen Z and Gen Alpha, that is informing everything that you're going to see long term, and that's not a decision that we get to make lightly as a 76-year-old brand that is, well over $1 billion now. This is, deciding to focus on a certain demographic and this marketing model. We might not always be built on viral bets, right? And I'm not saying we're going to be built on viral bets. I think it's part of an ecosystem. And I think that our brand will fail ultimately long term if we don't insert viral bets into the conversation and if we don't continue to plug into relevant cultural moments regularly, not once a year, not twice a year, not 3 times a year, but ideally once a month. And so, moving at the speed of culture will be the new normal for Cetaphil. And I believe that in probably 12 to 18 months, Hopefully sooner. I'm very confident with the campaign that's going to come out in August and then in October that our consumers will definitely take notice of how different our brand will be, because it's a huge departure visually. But today, if you go on the Cetaphil website, it still looks like the same Cetaphil that you've always seen. Very soon, it's not going to. And so in the future, the consumer is going to see the brand holistically. Very soon, the consumer is going to see a different identity show up at shelf and on every advertising and so in the tactical elements, the more material elements of our brand will catch up to our digital strategy. But you can move quick with digital, right? Within a month, we had worked with our incredible digital agency, Dragons, in Barcelona to revise our social look and feel. We moved quickly there. We moved quickly with viral bets. But I think 12 to 18 months, we will begin to really experience some conversation about how our brand is different and it's being perceived differently. And then from there, we have to keep showing up as who we want to be, and we have to keep showing up at relevant cultural moments. And my hope is that in the 12 to 24 month mark, we'll really, really begin to step on the gas and be known not for a tired brand, right? That's a bit of a wallflower in the skincare space. No disrespect to Cetaphil. Like, it's so great, it's so iconic. But I think that there's even more potential for it to grow by taking it into its next evolution.
I was actually when I first went into the meeting to pitch this work, I'd never met Tara before. And I was actually really excited because Tara coming in, I'd been given a heads up that Tara wanted to shake things up and do some things different. And I was pretty excited by that. And the idea that we had was not expected for Cetaphil. And where we wanted to sort of go in that moment was not expected for that current state Cetaphil. But for the future state Cetaphil that Tara and Galderma are building, it was exciting. And it is an unexpected moment for them then, and it's allowed us to do a few fun, unexpected moments very recently, as much as going live today. And, there's this term that you just used, the speed of culture. I think it's a term probably very overused here this week. And, over the last year, a lot of brands are trying to react in real time and react with, to culture in a way that's going to resonate with an audience, authentically, very quickly, because the speed of people's attention is growing smaller and smaller, and you have to act quickly to be relevant, especially with younger demographics. And Cetaphil have got now, especially on the digital side, into a format of being able to do that quickly. Even, for example, as we were doing the Game Time Glow, there was an amazing event for New York Fashion Week that Cetaphil had on as well. That was, I don't know how you did it, being there at two events at exactly the same time. But that was very fresh and very new and felt very different for the Cetaphil brand, and something that was pretty exciting.
And, and Alex is right. I'm sure everyone's hearing different executives talk this week about culture and how to evolve and how to move quickly. It's something I take very, very seriously. So I've spent, like I said, the last 10 years at Kendo Brands, which is LVMH's beauty brand incubator, where I spent a lot of time coming up with culturally relevant ideas that are fast for brands like Fenty Beauty and Fenty Skin and Marc Jacobs, et cetera. And so, this is one of my most favorite parts of being a marketer, is getting to move fast. I'm like a dog with a bone when something happens in culture. So, you ask how this is informing how we're going forward. So it gave me a proof point for me to unleash this directive to my team. So, for example, last week, a video went super viral, completely organically on all of the NFL social media channels. Highly recommend that you go look at it. It's amazing. Where the NFL's social media manager played it. She essentially punked different players by asking them fake questions, and one of them was, asking Xavier Leggett what is, to describe his skincare routine. Well, God bless Xavier Leggett for saying that he uses Cetaphil, cleanser, Cetaphil lotion, and it kept talking about Cetaphil. And the video starts with that. It went super viral, and the top upvoted comment on Instagram and TikTok was a variety of "Get this man a Cetaphil deal." So while our team was like, "Oh, that's cool," I very quickly said, "Okay, what are we doing about that? Please comment, hold my cleanser, message Xavier Leggett," and he responded within 10 minutes. And so we had a call with him. He's part of our new men's campaign that's going live this week. And so again, you can't sit on these opportunities. And like my mom always used to say, don't hesitate to ask, because the worst thing that can happen is somebody can say no. Xavier Leggett said yes. Cool to begin to activate with the NFL. We could have reached out to the NFL. It would have, no disrespect if we have anyone from the NFL, but the NFL is a well-oiled machine. We didn't want to go through the NFL. We wanted to go direct to the person behind that, who's now going to be a part of a campaign that's going to be really cool.
And again, continue the theme of authenticity.
It has to be authentic, right?
Yeah.
Like the consumers can see right through that. When there's an asset of someone saying, "Hi, so I've partnered with Cetaphil today. Come into Walmart." No one's going to actually buy Cetaphil at Walmart when they see that video. But hearing a really charmingly authentic NFL player talk about how obsessed he is with Cetaphil, like yes, please, we are all about it, and we want to build a relationship with him, and you're going to see more of that from us.
Great. Well, that's wonderful. Well, no one's playing us off, but I think we are at time.
Okay.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Can I ask you a question? Yeah. How long were the days?